So I think this is going to be a pretty good video. I got a ton of news around Fallout 76 and Bethesda to share with all of you. First and foremost, Bethesda is doing some new bans for players with illicit items. Some of you guys might be interested in this one because even if you never cheated in the game, you still could end up with a ban or really a temporary disabling of your account. Even beyond that, Bethesda finally published their Inside the Vault article. It was seemingly missing this past Tuesday, and I just thought they weren't going to post one this week, but instead they turn around and today have a surprise article come out, and it's big. It has a lot of great details and stuff you're going to be excited about. And then finally, what is seemingly the real conclusion to the Westworld Mobile versus Fallout Shelter lawsuit. I'll have timestamps to everything I'm about to talk about in the comments down below as a pinned comment, but also in the description if you guys are interested. Without further ado, let's look at some of the latest and greatest in Bethesda news. So first and foremost, let's actually look at this new banning situation, because it kind of ties into the Inside the Vault article also. So this was originally posted on the Polish Fallout Facebook page. As you guys can see what it says, it's pretty damning. That was a joke. Obviously, most of us can't read that. Although Eurogamer did get a translation. It says they obtained an official English translation from Bethesda. It's not like a direct translation of the original Polish text. So it seems like it's more of they got another response just in English that corresponds with the other one. Effectively, what this is going to be saying though is Bethesda is going to be looking into accounts where players have obtained items by accessing areas of the game that are not intended for the public. And explicitly what they're referencing here are those dev rooms that you've seen several videos of. I've covered some of the findings from them over the past week or so. Although in those you could get access to every item in Fallout 76, you could also get access to typically not accessible items like certain Atomic Shop content or even future DLC content. Bethesda went on to say, in an effort to ensure the integrity of these characters and accounts, these accounts are being temporarily disabled pending further investigation. Players that have accessed these areas and had their accounts impacted are encouraged to contact our support team. In the past, I reported on how some people accessing these dev rooms were getting banned, they were getting this email. That's not new. The new part is people with these items are getting soft bans or their accounts disabled, as Bethesda is saying. That's to say that even if you never access the dev room, but you just got one of those items, you may get banned, or seemingly you will get banned as long as you hold on to that item at some point. So now seemingly you can just contact support and get this situated, but obviously this could be concerning. You might have just traded with someone, not actually realized you're using a glitched or otherwise illegal item, and well, honestly, that's kind of the whole story there. I honestly think it is mostly positive. Yeah, it's gonna suck. It'll be annoying for those of you that didn't realize, oh, I'm not allowed to have this, but at the same time, this is probably a way to actually ban everyone that got access to these areas and didn't delete all the evidence of it, but also get all these items out of the servers. Some people are questioning why they don't just remove all the items from people's accounts, but for whatever reason, it seems like Bethesda went this route. As far as what kind of items you could get there are several screenshots posted online. I actually had the guy that sent this to the Eurogamer article send these to me also. So seemingly if you have any of these items and you haven't been banned yet, I think you'll probably get banned shortly. But speaking of exploits and cheating, Bethesda actually addressed this somewhat in their recent Inside the Vault article. I'll have a full link to this thing down below as it contains quite a bit of information. They start off by saying that they're taking these exploits and glitches very seriously, that people raising attention and actually submitting these to them are very helpful in the process of getting them resolved. I imagine part of the problem with actually getting rid of some of these duping exploits is that they're highly coveted, that you only know about them in some of the exclusive duping communities. Unless Bethesda starts sending spies into those communities, it might be difficult to figure out how they're actually doing it. They go on to say that if you do see other people doing an exploit or you know of one, that you should submit a support ticket. That's the way to officially get this handled. That could be whether you are actually doing it yourself and I guess you want to turn yourself in, or alternatively if you see other players actually abusing things. So honestly here, they don't really say much, but I feel like just the response like this, a couple of paragraphs on exploiting and how they realize it's going to be an issue, it's going to continue to be a thing as the game evolves and continues to develop, but at the same time, the fact that they are taking it seriously and trying to get rid of it just kind of gives me confidence. It gives me confidence that Bethesda is actually going to resolve this at some point. And although this doesn't talk about any concrete changes, some of the new changes coming in the next patch, which they go on to talk about, here they're calling it just patch 5, they say it's going to come at some point around the end of this month, and two of the name changes that will be coming with this are, first, changes to the 2-shot legendary mod. What this is going to do is actually make it so its damage is reduced. Instead of doing plus 100% damage, it'll now only do plus 25% damage. This is super notable, especially for the duping community, because this is predominantly what was being duped and what was being sold. specifically two-shot explosive weapons, because you'd get the damage bonus from explosives, but then the damage increase from the two-shot effect. So it still probably will be the best gun in the game, and these legendary effects will probably be the most sought after, as I don't think any other ones will actually trump it in damage, although I might be wrong on that, so feel free to correct me in the comments, but at the same time, it should do significantly less damage than it was previously. But then one final note at the end of this, they say the two-shot legendary mod can no longer be looted in the world. So effectively, if you have one, and seemingly due to dupers, there are quite a few of these things floating around, it's not going anywhere, but at the same time, if you actually want to get a new one, you can. Overall, I'd say that's actually a positive change, but at the same time, I think the explosive aspect of the two-shot explosive weapons was the much more powerful and almost overpowered part. Hopefully at some point in the future, maybe they could take a look at all of the legendary effects, think about buffing some of the worst ones, nerfing some of the super powerful ones like explosive, but either way, this is a massive step in the right direction. I'm really happy to see this change. They also mentioned that accidentally scrapping mods for armors and weapons will no longer be a thing. You'll have to scrap those manually, and it won't be done automatically as you're scrapping other things. And then one final note on this patch, as they talk about the greater patch as a whole, they say that the patch notes are going to consistently come in the Inside the Vault articles now. This is something I've been calling Bethesda out on. During the first Inside the Vault article, they did a really good job at that, but on almost everyone following it, they didn't. They just kind of had some miscellaneous information in there. Most of it was repeated somewhere else. I'm really happy to see them going back to including the patch notes in the Inside the Vault articles, and hopefully that means we'll get it early. That's another really good change in the right direction, and it shows that they are listening at least somewhat. Moving on, they actually request feedback from users on in-game events, asking for aspects of those that people enjoy and that they can improve on. They recognize that one existing issue is you can't really tell the event's current status. If the event's about to end and you spend caps to fast travel there, that's frustrating. People don't enjoy that. So improving on that, but then overall just improving on the events in general. They call for people to post on the subreddit, or even better, to post on their official forums. And this is another thing, like, that's just awesome, that they're explicitly calling for user feedback in an area that they feel needs improving. I know events in this game are something that just sound really cool, but I feel like aren't executed well enough. I almost feel like sometimes there's too many. I wish the rewards were a bit better, so it was like a way to actually interact with other users, to have a multiplayer component, while other times the game feels rather lonely. And finally, towards the end of this event section, they talk about how, because they're getting a lot of the launch bugs addressed, they expect that their future Inside the Vault articles will actually focus more on quality of life improvements and new/free content coming, which, speaking of, is where they go next with this. In the past, they've talked about a new PvP mode that is coming to Fallout 76. As they talked about it previously, it really sounded like it'd be a new game mode, so I thought it'd be something like Team Deathmatch, which you could actually find in the data mine files, or like a new event that you could participate in, similar to some of the stuff we have already. Well, it turns out I think I was very wrong about that. And here, when trying to describe it, they explicitly say, think of it like playing the game you're playing right now, but with no PvP rules. We want to introduce significantly more tension, drama, and consequences with every encounter with another human player. So I'd say that makes it sound massive. What it really seems like they're describing here is a separate server, that with PvP servers. Now obviously that's speculation, I don't really know, but if we're playing the same game just without PvP restrictions, that'd be a different server, right? I mean, that just kind of seems like what follows. This is really freaking exciting, and if you guys watched my PvP video talking about how bad is Fallout 76's PvP really, that's what I concluded in that video that this game needs. The problem is with some of these events that you have on servers, even though they don't have PvP restrictions, people don't play them. People don't play events. An incorporation of just a wilderness wouldn't probably be enough, because unless a bunch of people on the server are interested in participating, it would just be desolate and dead. But a fully fledged PvP server would solve most of the problems and make it so people who want a PvP flock there. So hopefully that's what this is, or at least something pretty close. They also mentioned that in the next week's article, they will go further in depth on this and what we could actually expect from it. And then finally, they do say that they're not getting to specifics about their first major free content update, so like the free DLC, whatever it may be, that this content update will roll out over several weeks, consistently adding new activities to keep the world feeling fresh and ever-changing. So as one final note, the last topic I do want to touch on, Westworld Mobile is shutting down. So yesterday, their official official Twitter account sent out this tweet. You can pause the video and read it or click on the link down below, but it effectively says they're done. It's closing, it's going to be removed from the App Store. Or actually now, since this is 2 days old, it has been removed from the App Store and officially will be shut down in April. If you don't know, effectively the whole story behind this was Bethesda hired a game developer to actually make Fallout Shelter. Warner Bros. Later hired that same game developer to make Westworld Mobile. Bethesda realized some of the bugs in Westworld Mobile were the exact same bugs they had in Fallout Shelter, seeming to indicate that that common game developer actually reused some of the code that they originally made under Bethesda, and thus Bethesda did launch a lawsuit. The lawsuit was settled out of court, so we don't know who won, but seemingly Bethesda did, and now a week or so after that, the Westworld Mobile game is no more. Technically, at the end of the lawsuit, the Westworld Mobile game was permitted to stay up, but I imagine the lawsuit is probably just the final nail in the coffin for this game. It never was a huge success. It's not like it ever had a ton of players. Personally, for me, I never even heard of it before this lawsuit, and I'm a huge fan of Westworld. So although the lawsuit certainly didn't help the livelihood of this game, I imagine it wasn't going to be around forever anyway, or certainly not around for as long as Fallout Shelter has been. But anyway, that's largely going to wrap it up for this video. This is a big one. I feel like Bethesda's latest Inside the Vault article was one of the best, and it shows they are really listening to some extent. Like if you actually cut out their little section about the new PvP mode, it pretty much addresses my exact complaints with PvP, as I mentioned in that video. I started off by saying they kept citing how it's going to be this drama-filled event seeing other players, but that doesn't exist, and that a PvP server would add that back in. And in that article, they basically talk exactly about that and how this new mode, whether it ends up being a PvP server or not, would kind of do that. Either way, this is really good news. I'm really excited for the future of Fallout 76 and to see what they do with it now that they've gotten it to kind of a release-ready version. It might not be just there yet, but it's definitely really close. Most of the major bugs are gone, and hopefully we see only further bans for dupers, which I know behind the scenes has been going on over the past couple of days. As always, again, I thank you all for watching. Hopefully you found this video informative, and with that, I hope to see you all next time. Later.